With more on politics and voters tonight. Specifically, it's a report out of North Carolina about the young generation of evangelicals who have a different view of faith and politics than, say, their parents' generation. It's the reporting of Tom Brokaw, who's here with us tonight. Tom.
Brian, this development in the politically powerful evangelical movement in the country is getting a growing amount of attention, as you might expect, from pollsters and campaign strategists alike. It is what is called the emerging church, a movement in which young evangelists are moving away from the megachurches and the political activism of their parents and other elders.
Women are getting
Pine Ridge Church, how we doing this morning?
Sunday morning at Pine Ridge Church in tiny Graham, North Carolina.
Pine Ridge, I'm pumped up, more excited than ever. If you think
and
about
that's
it,
Pastor Tad Grandstaff on the stage.
Had the courage and faith that God can and will use you to do the impossible.
His church is just 12 weeks old, and while anyone is welcome to attend weekly services in this converted supermarket,
I'm glad you guys came today.
The 27-year-old Grandstaff is preaching to his generation. In addition to the Christian rock, that means blogging, using MySpace to reach out, and podcasting his sermon.
What's up? Welcome to the Pine Ridge Podcast.
Grandstaff grew up in Jerry Falwell's church in Virginia, but is determined to stay away from politics.
The moment that I say, well, God only loves Republicans, then what I just told our entire county and our entire region is that Democrats have no place in our church. So we're not going to use our podium time for that motive.
He didn't rush down into the valley, fueled by...
This could be a coming shift in the evangelical movement. A recent Pew poll found that 2 years ago, 55% of the evangelicals under the age of 30 called themselves Republicans. Today, that number is 40%. And where do they go next?
Most of these people who are changing are becoming independents. And that means that the Republicans can't take this group of voters for granted, but it also means that the Democrats have to work very hard to attract them.
This new generation of preachers is not as doctrinaire. Grandstaff believes homosexuality is a sin, but...
We just focus on what the biblical mandate of marriage is, and we don't have to bash and we don't have to preach against.
His young parishioners agree.
I think that's a personal issue set aside from any kind of church issues.
That's unsettling to Dr. Albert Mohler, president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary.
The Christian church throughout all the centuries has recognized that there are certain boundaries to the definition of Christianity and certain boundaries to Christian behavior.
Some of the elders in the evangelical movement have a pretty strict idea of how life should be lived. Too strict?
For our generation, you know, they've seen the rules and the regulations and the stipulations that have went behind it. But let's stop focusing on what we're not about, and let's focus on what we are about, and that's loving people.
David is a young man, much like myself.
That's a message that this 20-something preacher hopes will keep his church around for the next generation.
God, let us continue to make you more famous. In your name, amen.
One of the consequences of this movement that worries Dr. Mohler is that congregations in the megachurches are growing older, and so church elders worry about the long-term prospects for the big churches if this youth movement becomes, in effect, a competitor, Brian.
It does feel different. Tom, thanks, as always. We'll